Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping straight into a fascinating intersection, 19th century philosophy meeting, well, 21st century AI.
Yeah, it's quite a leap, but incredibly relevant.
We're looking at Charles Sanders Peirce through a 2013 analysis by Pierre Steiner, and how his ideas give us this, well, vital, largely untapped way to think about modern AI.
Hmm.
And the core claim we're tackling today is pretty wild, really flips things on their head. The idea that human intelligence, it isn't this natural thing AI is trying to copy.
Right.
Instead, human intelligence is, and this is the quote, artificial right from the start.
Exactly. And that's where Pierce is so interesting. His theories, they really anticipate a lot of current thinking stuff, like extended cognition, embedded cognition, what some people call post-cognitivist approaches.
Post-cognitivist, right.
So the aim here isn't really asking, can machines become human? It's more about digging into how far we are already artificial, already machine-like in a way.
Okay, so let's unpack that.
Hmm.
If the mind isn't just, locked inside the skull, this ghost in the machine,
Yeah.
what is it and where is it?
Well, Pierce was radically anti-Cartesian. He completely rejected that idea of the mind as some separate, non-physical substance hiding in the brain.
Okay.
For him, the mind isn't a thing at all. It's a process of sign development, meaning-making, using signs and symbols. He called it semiosis.
Semiosis, right.
And crucially, he argued that that semiotic activity, isn't confined just to your brain. It extends outwards.
Okay, so how does that work? Can you give an example?
Yeah, his inkstand analogy is pretty
Yeah.
helpful here. He basically argued that our cognitive abilities, our thinking faculties, get virtually localized in the tools we use.
Like pen and paper
And
or symbols.
exactly. Think about algebraic notations, diagrams, even just writing things down. These aren't just external aids to some internal thought process. They become part of the thinking process itself. So the mind, for Pierce, is this extended system. It's coupled with its environment, particularly its technological environment. You could almost say we're already cyborgs, in a sense.
Wow, okay. So if our thinking fundamentally relies on exploiting these external artifacts, then the whole traditional AI goal of building a self-contained, purely internal artificial mind.
It's kind of missing the point, right? Or at least missing a huge part of what makes human intelligence work.
So we should be focusing more on what? Collaborative machines.
Yeah, collaborative systems, maybe intelligent global systems that integrate human and artificial components, systems that leverage this extended tool-reliant nature of intelligence rather than trying to replicate some mythical natural internal mind.
That really does reframe the whole AI project.
It does. But then, the big question becomes, if our intelligence is already artificial in this way, because it depends on tools, then what actually is the difference between us and machines? Where's the line?
Right. Is there a fundamental difference left? Pierce actually tackled that, didn't he, back in 1887?
He did, yeah, in an essay called Logical Machines. And what's fascinating is what he dismissed. He said things like originality or even consciousness. They aren't the real differentiators.
So forget the Turing test, focusing on imitation or claims of inner experience.
Pretty much. For Pierce, those were kind of irrelevant for drawing the key distinction. The true difference, he argued, lies in self-control.
Self-control. But machines have that, don't they? Like a thermostat or a governor on a steam engine.
But he meant something much deeper. Yes, machines show basic self-correction like that governor. But human reasoning, he said, is capable of potentially infinite degrees of self-control.
Infinite degrees, what does that mean?
It means control on control. Self-criticism of our control mechanisms. We can evaluate our own reasoning processes, our own principles. We can even revise our fundamental goals and ideals based on, say, aesthetic or moral considerations. That's meta-control.
Okay, so it's not just following rules, it's judging and changing the rules themselves.
Exactly. Critiquing our own habits of thought.
But is that higher level critique purely an internal thing? Something happening only inside our heads?
And that's the crucial link back to the extended mind idea. Pierce argued no, it's not purely internal. To really critique a thought or a principle, you often need to objectify it.
Objectify it.
By making it external, using what he called exosomatic representational structures. Fancy term. But it just means things like writing your thoughts down, drawing a diagram, expressing them in language, external signs and symbols.
So you put the thought out there so you can look at it critically.
Precisely. You need to interact with the thought as an object. That's why Pierce famously said men and words reciprocally educate each other. Our ability to engage in deep self-criticism, this meta-control, is tied directly to our use of external tools, especially symbols.
Wow. Okay, so let's tie this all together then.
Right. So if the key difference between human and machine intelligence is this deep capacity for self-control, for meta-control,
Mhm.
and if that meta-control itself requires these external exosomatic tools, these symbols and artifacts,
Then the traditional AI approach of just building a better, faster internal processor.
is fundamentally limited, at least if the goal is human-like reasoning. It subverts that whole paradigm. The path for machines to get closer to human intelligence isn't necessarily about better internal computation alone.
It's about
It's about creating machines that can effectively offload their cognitive processes.
Mhm.
Machines that can use public symbols, external artifacts, and maybe even offload cognitive work onto other machines.
building distributed intelligence.
Exactly. Intelligence that, like ours, is spread out, reliant on external structures and interaction.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on then. If our own intelligence is defined, in large part by the tools we outsource our thinking to, what happens when the machines we're building start learning how to effectively outsource their thinking? Maybe even to each other.
That's the real advanced stage, isn't it? A truly intelligent global system.
Something to think about. That's all for this deep dive.